Great to be with you here. A wonderful opportunity to be able to speak to you. I'm Father Michael. I'm only in Guyana for a little while, and it's coming up to Lent, and that's a fantastic time. Well, I think it is. The Church, in one of the prefaces, calls it the joyful season of Lent. Well, I'm afraid it's rather spoiled for me as a child, because it was always something you had to give up something. You know, it had to be quite negative. Or you actually tried to give up more than everybody else. It became a sort of competition. I know one family, they got 3 small children, and they have a car, and the children always sit in the back seat, and there's always a fight who's going to be on the window side. And just before Lent, little Peter said, I'm going to sit in the middle for Lent. He rather spoiled it by announcing that every time they got into the car, how brave he was. But there was always, it was meant to be give something up, or it was something quite a sad time. I don't know, a bit miserable really. But no, what it is, this is preparing for the death and resurrection of Jesus. And the most wonderful thing is, as you go through Lent gradually, you realize how much Jesus loves you. Well, we know it. I've never had any problem with God loving everybody but me. And so Lent is a time that's 40 days, they call it. That's about 6 weeks. And that takes us up to Holy Week. And then for the resurrection of Jesus, another 6 weeks. That seemed to be more enjoyable. So 6 weeks after Easter, trying to realize what Jesus was. But coming up to that is seeing how much he would do for me. He's so kind, you've no idea. A lot of the saints, like St. Paul said, he loved me and gave himself for me. St. Julian of Norwich, she was always a chatty person, and in her conversation with Jesus once, Jesus said to her, are you happy that I died for you? And she said, yes, good Lord, bless you, I'm so happy about it. Then I am happy too, he said. I would do it again and again if it would help. And then she goes on after that, because she wrote it down afterwards, saying what she thought he meant by that. She thought that Jesus meant that if it would help her today, he would go through the crucifixion. And that applying to each of us. Most extraordinary thing. It's so hard to take on, isn't it? It's really true. If it would be really good for me, Jesus would go through the crucifixion today. And to you, I love some people very much, but I can't love everybody. Not like that. But Jesus can and does. So what we call Lent, it's really gradually coming to understand how much we mean to him. And so it's like walking along with Jesus to go to Jerusalem where he died. Now, one stage, he said, now when I get there, they're going to kill me and torture me, and on the 3rd day I rise again. Well, then Peter, you can imagine that, Peter got really upset. He said, no, Lord, you mustn't. That can't happen to you. And Jesus said, terrible thing, get behind me, Satan. You're a stone in my path. He loved Peter. But could you just imagine when Jesus going up to Jerusalem to die and be tortured for love of us, and someone says, oh, don't do it. Oh, he'd say, oh, please, don't stop me. It's hard enough to go through it anyway. Now, Lent is gradually coming, so step by step in each week we get nearer and nearer. And if you at the Mass, you'll find all the readings are Jesus coming up to Jerusalem and finding it difficult. Sometimes he really panicked. because he's like us. He didn't like to suffer and think about that. But then he would think of us. He'd think of you or of me. I say, I have to do it because I love them. So Lent is this period of getting ready for the time when he actually went through it. Then we come to Holy Week. Holy Week is the time when we actually think about what Jesus went through. The most wonderful moment in Jesus' life, believe it or not, the most wonderful moment was that moment that he died. The moment he died, he was with God his Father in heaven. He didn't need 3 days to rise from the dead. He had to do that to show that he's properly dead. You just imagine if he came alive again straight away, people would have said, well, he fainted or something. No, he had to be dead, buried, finished, and then come alive again. But for him, the moment he died, he was with God his Father. But preparing for that took a lot of effort. And that was what we're doing with him now. So as we go through Lent, gradually get into it. Don't get caught up with the things, the hard things you've got to do. I'll talk about them next time, about what things you can do to walk with Jesus. But the main thing is that we're walking with him side by side. Imagine you were carrying the cross, or walking with him. Remember, when he carried the cross, they got a man called Simon to help him. Well, who decided how fast they were going to go? Because the Roman soldiers just wanted to get on and get back. Simon would adapt his pace to Jesus. At first, Simon didn't want to. They didn't ask him, they made him do it. But he walked with Jesus in the same pace as Jesus. So they're walking together. Now Jesus takes his pace from Simon and Simon together. And what we will do during this Lent is try to walk alongside with Jesus. And so our prayer is that we will come closer and closer, or rather our step will be in step with his. And when you get there, you'll know deep in your heart, much more than you ever had before, how much you mean to Jesus. He thinks the world of you. God bless you.